Hi, this is Bruce Rawles. I'm speaking with Susan Dugan again about A Course in Miracles. And today we thought we'd talk about Chapter 15, Section 8, The Only Real Relationship. And Susan and I were just discussing what a great section this is in the text of the Course. And anyway, so let's dive right in. Welcome, Susan, as always.
Hi, yeah, it's nice to be here. I love this section, and we normally this time of year, I think many people go to, and course students, serious course students, go to chapter 15, which is all about was scribed, I think, at during the Christmas season, and uses a lot of imagery from sort of the cultural kind of imagery and the Christian imagery of Jesus being born and redeeming the world and all those kinds of ideas, and of course gives it a different spin, which is really about the idea of innocence being reborn into our minds, our hearts, and this section, the whole chapter is about the holy instant and the special relationship. And so it's really this chapter in particular that we're going to look at, um, which is chapter 8, the only real relationship, is it's one of the most beautiful. It's one of my favorites because it's just so it's I don't know, it just really speaks to your heart, I think, and I think it sort of speaks to that longing that we all have for to be in relationship that is not fraught with conflict, that is unconditional and all loving. And we both want to experience that for ourselves, but we also want to, part of us, at least, the part of us that wants to return home and longs to return home to that undifferentiated union of our true nature, here's shares that longing. We have a longing to be loved like that, but we have a longing to love like that too. It's love's longing for itself. And I think this chapter, talks about really getting in touch with that loving presence, that memory of wholeness that the Course calls Holy Spirit or Jesus, but a different kind of Jesus than the Bible, really as a symbol of the innocence, that again, that shared innocence that we really have not lost. All contrary evidence in the dream to the contrary. As bodies and as these conflicted human beings that we all seem to be in such struggle, that is not the real part of ourselves, that the real part of ourselves still remains, and it's within us, and it's within every mind, and we can find it, and only in finding that, and only in making that our purpose, can we really begin to heal and know how to be in real relationship with each other. So I think it's such a great message for not just for this season, where sometimes we have more dealings with our special relationships than usual, and so a lot of the conflict seems to be more in our face too, and we're all under a lot of pressure that we put ourselves under to try to, that giving to get of the ego thought system, to try to sacrifice to find love, to trade off guilt, and to try to get love back that we think we lost by buying it from someone in some way. This is a wonderful reminder of what real relationship and real yearning for love and real connecting, the possibility of really connecting with that love, what it really looks like. So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, that really puts it in the right perspective, doesn't it? Because it's the real relationship it's almost like when we try to connect on the level of form through the separate self. I was thinking, I was out for a walk a little while ago, and I was thinking it's kind of like the Tower of Babel. But we try to figure out how to reach that communion on the level of form, and it never works.
Yeah.
But yet we have within our minds the mechanism that connects everyone and flawlessly, and that's that relationship that we have with what the Course calls the Holy Spirit, and
Right.
that um, state of mind, in that frame of awareness, and only in that frame of awareness are we not only perfectly connected, but there's no guilt, there's no awkwardness, there's no uh, nothing embarrassing, nothing shameful, nothing fearful, nothing dreadful.
Right,
There's
right.
not, there's
Yeah,
nothing to not like about that
right,
true relationship that we have, not only with our creator, but with each other and everyone. It's an all-inclusive relationship.
right.
Yeah.
And the course's, approach of using the conflict that arises within us, that all of our reactions and sense of being fairly treated by others, and not getting our needs met, or whatever story we're telling ourselves, which we have a lot of stories. Their interactions between human beings are very difficult and fraught with conflict.
Mhm.
Everybody here is part of that same ego thought system, that of one or the other, that is comes from that very frightened idea of believing that we lost love forever. And the only way we can try to find it again is to grab it greedily from outside of us, and but do that as covertly as possible,
Mhm.
to do it in a way that we manipulate others into meeting our emotional needs, and all kinds of needs.
Mhm.
um, and then trying to trade off this guilt that we feel in our relationships, and all it leads to is a sense of loss, that more pronounced sense of loss and hopelessness. And so this is the way, by getting in touch with that every time we're really in those conflicts. That is the holy instant. That's the invitation to the Holy Spirit, in which we are invited to step above, to rise above the battleground, to
Mhm. Mhm.
to join with that part of our mind, ask for help from that part of our mind, to help us remember our purpose, that we want to heal. We want to heal our mind. We want to awaken to this love within us, and we're willing to admit that we don't know how to do it, and that we're wrong. We're wrong about our judgments, and the way that my way isn't working of relating to others. And that's what invited the course in the first place. The scribing of the course was that, at least that humble awareness that something's wrong.
Mhm.
And so we have that opportunity in every moment and every day, as we go through our very conflicted lives and busy lives, to return to that. And maybe we can use this season, we really, as a way of remembering, to do that all the time, as it's kind of in our face, and be born into a new awareness and a new purpose, or renew, those of us that are long-term students, to renew our commitment to this path.
Mhm.
I want to remember my purpose, because, as we all know, we can it's so easy to forget, right?
Yep. We've had the theory class. Now the lab is the other 23 hours of the day
Right,
sometimes, right?
right. And
Yeah.
that's the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually putting in practice. You used a word a moment ago that kind of triggered a thought, that was the word was covert, and I was thinking, well, that's the ego likes to, it thrives in darkness and secrecy and deception and diversion and obfuscation and all that kind of stuff. The course reminds us, but um, sometimes the evidence is more overt
Hmm.
when we see our projections reflected on the world, but sometimes it's covert. But in either case, it I think it is helpful to just kind of notice when we're not at peace. And yesterday, a couple of friends came over, and one of them said, "Hey, could I? You mind if I watch the last few minutes of this football game?" And I'm not a big sports fan, but I said, "Sure, why
Right.
not?" So I put it on. We watched the last 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it was, and then occasionally they do a freeze frame where they want to make sure that, did the quarterback get the ball, or did he fumble it, or in order to determine where the next play was going to be, and all that kind of stuff. And so I was thinking about that, the metaphor of the freeze frame. It's sort of like if we can watch our thoughts and just kind of notice, just sort of kind of catch the crazy thoughts of the ego kind of mid thought, and just sort of freeze frame it. Sometimes I think that is helpful, and I think Holy Spirit can use those moments of lucid aha-ness, if you want to, if that's a word, to just kind of catch the things that we really don't want. And if we look with Holy Spirit's help, we can see that as a silly, forgivable, kind of almost like a blooper shot, kind of thing, and just say, oh, well, that's not really what I want, and then forgive it. And then I think that can help us
Mhm.
shorten the time that we spend off on those diversions and distractions and
Yep, yep.
denials.
I mean, the close, the best, the more quickly we can catch ourselves, the better,
Yeah,
and try
yeah.
to reorient about again what my purpose is, even in those times when we're reacting, when we feel
Mhm.
we all know how it feels like when we're
Yeah.
feeling attacked,
Mhm.
and so to be very aware of that and still feeling it, but also really introducing, remembering the idea that this is my mind in need of healing. This has nothing to do really with what is going on with the other person.
Mhm.
They're having their dream. It's not about me. And so what is my purpose here?
Yeah.
And again, there's no solving it until you do that. And at some point things will shift if we keep at that practice, if we
Mhm.
make that the most important thing, we keep bringing it back to, again, this real relationship in the mind. And I want to see peace instead of this is only possible when we are willing to let go of our resistance to that by recognizing that we're wrong, that first step, right? This is not why I'm really upset. So should we read through it?
Sure, sure. Yeah, as you were sharing, another word you said that kind of clicked for me was renewal, and I was thinking, every time we catch um, the thoughts that we don't want, and look at them with Holy Spirit without condemnation. In a sense, we're in those moments renewing our commitment to the forgiveness
Mhm.
practice,
Yep, right.
and basically, if we have renewals of subscriptions to things that we buy on the level of form, and usually those come up, once a year, once a month sometimes. But the renewal that we're asked to do in the course gets to the point where it's, moment to moment to moment, I think.
It'd be very regular and become automatic at some point.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yep,
Just a
yep,
second nature habit. Yeah.
yep.
Yep.
So you want to start?
Sure, sure. Yeah, this is the only real relationship, which is section 8 in chapter 15 of the text, which is the holy instant, as you mentioned. It begins with, the holy instant does not replace the need for learning, for the Holy Spirit must not leave you as your teacher until the holy instant has extended far beyond time. For a teaching assignment such as his, he must use everything in this world for your release. He must side with every sign or token of your willingness to learn of him what the truth must be. He is swift to utilize whatever you offer him on behalf of this. His concern and care for you are limitless. In the face of your fear of forgiveness, which he perceives as clearly as he knows forgiveness is release, he will teach you to remember that forgiveness is not loss, but your salvation. And in that complete forgiveness, in which you recognize that there is nothing to forgive, you're absolved completely. And that last sentence kind of summarizes the metaphysics of the Course, doesn't it? In reminding us that in truth, there's nothing to forgive, but we need to look at the specifics first with that inner kindness teacher and see what we've done to distort truth, and then forgive ourselves for those misunderstandings, distortions, and
Yep.
obfuscations and diversions and
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
other ways we could describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's such, I love the first couple sentences. The Holy Instant does not replace the need for learning, for the Holy Spirit must not leave you as your teacher until the Holy Instant has extended far beyond time. So this is a journey,
Yeah.
and but it's coming back to the present again and again and again, and that willingness to right now, can I make a different choice? Can I make a different, a decision for healing, for learning true forgiveness, and can I be wrong?
Yeah.
And that's, and then he will use all of it. Everything is our curriculum. So yeah, yeah,
Every
I
little
love that.
scrap. Yeah.
Yeah.
That also, the first two sentences remind me of the comfort that really is being, you know, revealed to us that we can um, make use of, and it's sort of like we all get the deluxe mentoring package. It's not like everyone
Right.
gets a short a short and version of it, or a cut rate or
Right.
like,
Everyone is
yeah,
right. The Holy Spirit, that memory of wholeness is within everyone. That teacher is within all minds.
yep,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
We get the whole enchilada, and moment to moment, not just oh, we don't get any messages from Holy Spirit saying, "Sorry, I'm busy with another client. Can I check
Right.
with you in an hour?" No,
Right.
the response is instantaneous. When we ask for help, and it says that they're swift to utilize whatever you offer him on behalf of this. It's like
Yep.
instantaneous moment, not even an instant. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So paragraph 2, hear him gladly. So you could say, learn to hear him gladly, right?
Mhm.
We're in school. And learn of him that you have need of no special relationships at all. And special relationships in the Course are substitutes for that love of God, right?
Mhm.
We don't need a substitute because the love is still within us all, surrounding us. You but seek in them, in those special relationships, what you have thrown away, what you believe you have thrown away. And through them, you will never learn the value of what you have cast aside, but still desire with all your heart. Let us join together in making the holy instant all that there is, by desiring that it be all that there is. God's Son has such great need of your willingness to strive for this that you cannot conceive of need so great. Behold, the only relationship, or sorry, the only need that God and his Son share and will to meet together. You could say the only real need, right, of every heart.
Mhm.
You are not alone in this. The will of your creations calls to you to share your will with them. Turn then in peace from guilt to God and them. So toward God, just that, nod to God
Yeah.
that the Course talks about, that Ken
Mhm.
sometimes talked about. It's just that openness and willingness to again, just admit that I don't know, and trust.
What if I was wrong? Wouldn't that be cool?
Right. Yeah.
That could
I mean,
actually be pretty neat.
we should be learning that it's a good thing to be wrong.
Mhm.
I'm wrong about myself, I'm wrong about you. And everybody has that within them, that capacity to choose, whether they're a course student or not.
Mhm.
So
Somehow I flashed on the Huey Lewis song, and we could apply that to Holy Spirit. Happy to be stuck with you, Holy Spirit, and discover
right.
you who remind us that we're clueless.
Yeah.
But that's a good clueless. It
Yes,
basically
exactly.
means that we've opened our mind to receiving real mentoring, real guidance, real instruction of seeing the forgiveness that's possible where we would have never imagined it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
You get to read my favorite paragraph.
Oh, okay. Great. Well, I'll try to do a good job.
Okay.
All right. Paragraph 3. Relate only with what will never leave you and what you can never leave. The loneliness of God's Son is the loneliness of his Father. Refuse not the awareness of your completion, and seek not to restore it to yourself. Fear not to give redemption over to your Redeemer's love. He will not fail you, for he comes from one who cannot fail. Accept your sense of failure as nothing more than a mistake in who you are. For the holy host of God is beyond failure, and nothing that he wills can be denied. You are forever in a relationship so holy that it calls to everyone to escape from loneliness and join you in your love. And where you are, must everyone seek and find you there. Wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty wonderful. Yeah. It's basically reminding us that we all are in that heart of God. That's the real communion, beyond any Tower of Babel that the ego can possibly fabricate in a dream, and where every relationship exists as one true identity.
Hmm.
Yeah, even
Hmm.
though we're not aware at all what that might really mean, but we're drawn to the understanding that we'll redeem our craziness and put our
Right.
put our minds at ease. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly don't are in our experience, we can't really relate to you are forever in a relationship so holy that it calls to everyone. All relationships that we know are not forever.
Right, right.
There's always impending loss.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so, but we're trying to learn something else again, to make, what is my purpose here? Accept your sense of failure is nothing more than a mistake in who you are. I want to learn a different way, a different, what I really am, right? And I love how supportive we are in here. He will not fail you, for he comes from one who cannot fail. It's so much like the introduction to the second part of the workbook where he says, I'm so close to you, we cannot fail.
Yeah.
I think that's where it is in the workbook. But
I think
we're
so.
so
Yeah.
heavily supported
Right.
on this path, and our part is so small. We just have to remember to do it.
Yep. The certainty is infinite, but the uncertainty is finite. Actually, that reminds me of something that came to me the other morning. It's just very brief, um, in terms of the difference between the ego's finiteness and the Holy Spirit's infiniteness. I just wrote, ACIM's pure non-dual metaphysics is finitely challenging to our egos, of course,
Mhm.
but infinitely rewarding, or more accurately restoring, of our real identity to our healed mind. Anyway, just a
Very nice. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
but because it's a finite, you know, challenge that we think is limitless, but our the course reminds us our tolerance for pain may be high, but it's not without limit. And
Right.
and then another favorite cliche, if you will, is the ego may be foolproof, but it's not God proof. And so
Yes,
the
exactly.
things that we think are just unceasing, and the Sisyphus boulder, that never seems to end, falling and being pushed back up. Yeah, we'll have an end at some point, and when we let go of thinking that we're at the mercy of the world, and then we will see that it was really nothing, in the broader context of things, even though we certainly aren't sure, sure don't see that now. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. I guess we're on paragraph 4. Is that
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep.
Think but an instant on this. God gave the sonship to you to ensure your perfect creation. This was his gift. For as he withheld himself not from you, he withheld not his creation. Nothing that ever was created but is yours. Your relationships are with the universe, you could say with eternity, with that union that has not been ever broken. And this universe being of God is far beyond the petty sum of all the separate bodies you perceive, all the galaxies, all the bodies, the human bodies, and every form that we perceive as
Mhm.
being separate. For all its parts are joined in God through Christ, where they become like to their Father. Christ knows of no separation from his Father, who is his one relationship, in which he gives as his Father gives to him. So, I mean, and it throughout this, as through much of the course, Jesus is, speaks of God as if he often as if he knows about this, as if he's. And I mean, it's not to be taken literally,
Right.
but God being that undifferentiated union that doesn't know about the separation because he knows only the real. But that a comforting way for us to hear it is that God is giving us this gift, that God is welcoming us back, that God is incomplete without his children. And as we move up what Ken described as the ladder that the Song of Prayer talks about, we become more aware that it's just that it's just a letting go of the resistance to that awareness. It's really not, we don't need that kind of fairy tale anymore.
Mhm,
We're
mhm.
kind of growing into what that symbol that we start out relating to as within us is. We really, over time, we begin to integrate that within our mind, and that becomes the primary part of our mind until all the guilt is gone through this process, and that's all that's left. And then we can open our eyes from the course's perspective. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the guilt really is the only reason we thought we needed guilt was because we believe we pulled off this impossible crime of taking perfect oneness and
Yeah,
shattering it into, a seemingly infinite number of little parts, like this paragraph alludes to. All
right,
its parts are joined in God through Christ, where they become like to their Father. So, but there really aren't parts, but we need to take each little part and give it the blessing of undoing our belief in separation with all the specifics until the
right.
specifics
All the
go.
specifics in our own dream. Right,
Yeah, yeah.
right.
Kind of reminds me of,
Yeah,
one of the quotes in, I believe it's Gary Renard's second book, where he has Peirce's Gospel of Thomas. My favorite one of that is super short. It's "Be passersby," which it reminds us to not take anything that happens in time and space too seriously. But there's another one that I'm going to paraphrase. It was something like, the kingdom of heaven is spread out across the earth, but no one recognizes it. So, I was thinking, well, that's kind of like the wholeness is in every seeming part, but because we're so fixated on the parts that we don't see the whole, can't see the forest for the trees kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that's a pretty good metaphor for, the course's metaphysics of pure non-duality, that, the all-inclusive oneness that is our real identity. We can't really grok what that is, but we can certainly take all the things that we seem to think are little petty issues, as this adjective reminds us, and bring those to the altar of our mind with Holy Spirit's help and say, okay, help me see where I'm using this as a block to the awareness of love's presence. And then each of those specifics then become, a sacred place, the holiest place where an ancient hatred is turned into a present love, right?
yeah. I mean, it's really just as we react, as we seem to become triggered by something outside, is just our clue that we've chosen wrongly, that this is not about that. It's about this fear I have of letting go of the idea of a personal self,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
which I mistakenly believe it has value, right?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
what is, what protects me from an avenging God, which is, never happened really.
yeah,
So yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And then the personal self, interestingly enough, as you're saying that, I was thinking, well, the personal self, Holy Spirit uses that too, not to reinforce the idea of the separateness, but as a vehicle or a mechanism to get back to our right mind, where we see that it's really a transpersonal identity, that where we're all joined, but we can use every little bit of the seeming personal self that we have as a vehicle or a communication device to restore our mind to what never was separated.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm on 5 here.
Yeah.
Okay. The Holy Spirit is God's attempt to free you of what He does not understand, and because of the source of the attempt, it will succeed. The Holy Spirit asks you to respond as God does. He would teach you what you do not understand. God would respond to every need, whatever form it takes. And so He keeps this channel open to receive His communication to you and yours to Him. God does not understand your problem in communication, for He does not share it with you. It is only you who believe that it is understandable. The Holy Spirit knows that it is not understandable, and yet He understands it because you made it. So I think that just kind of ties into what I
You
was
made
just
it
saying.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
The Holy Spirit can use every little misunderstanding, every little unholy relationship, if you will, and turn it into a holy one by seeing nothing happened. All the
Right.
guilt that we would have projected onto the specifics can then be undone by letting Holy Spirit see looking through the eyes of innocence.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's really emphasizing again here, though, that, how important it is for us to accept that we don't understand. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one of the hardest things for course students, to accept. We keep thinking that we try to pick apart the lines in the course, and we try to, we refuse to put it into a greater understanding of, to read it more metaphorically, and put it into the greater metaphysical teaching of the course, which is that, God doesn't know about this world.
Mm-hmm.
And there are two levels on which the course is speaking. One is our reality as our ongoing uninterrupted union with God, that we're no longer aware of, and people forget that part. We're no longer aware of that. And then the way the Course is speaking to us as if we were individuals, and people really get very stuck, I think, sometimes on insisting that they can somehow break this code or something, and understand level one, and we can't. We have to have this humility to say, I don't understand this. And that's where the healing happens.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
just that willingness to be vulnerable, to really feel what you're feeling, and the fear of it, the despair of it, the hatred of it, and to just say, I really want to have a different experience. This is so painful, and I don't know how to have a different experience. I don't know how to make, to be loving in my relationships. These problems seem too big for me to ever solve, and that we're right about. Because it cannot be solved in the world. It cannot be solved at the level we think we're in. If that the rest of that takes place through this relationship, our relationship with this only real relationship within, and that has to start with humility. It really does. Believe me, I've tried it the other way.
I think we've all, when we're honest with ourselves, in those moments,
Yeah.
have proven to ourselves that we're all clueless. I'm reminded of the wisdom of that great sage, Sergeant Schultz in Hogan's Heroes, who said, "I know nothing, I see nothing." And also last night, my wife and I watched it was billed as a rom-com, but it was actually more of a drama about an alcoholic realtor who who finally backed against the wall and realized that she needed help, kind of thing. It was Sigourney Weaver and Kevin Kline and The Good House, but very well, very well done. And it was just kind of like an example of
yeah, it was pretty dark I know it was billed as a rom-com.
Yeah, but I thought the ending where basically it's like, okay, I really do need help, and I think that kind of speaks to what we were just talking about. Is sometimes we think we have to go to the ultimate craziness before we ask for help, but no, actually at any given moment we could, without having to reach dire straits, ask for help. And I think that's the
point. We
don't
know what that help will look like. We
no.
We really don't. It's not the trying to solve it on the level of behavior, on the level of the world. That may be how it, once we've joined with that real relationship in the mind, that may be how it manifests through us. But it's, we can't get there like that. Yeah. So.
And like another thing that I was thinking of that we probably do as course students more than we realize is we probably, when we read, together we, have the lamp that will dispel the darkness. We probably, to left to our own devices, would rewrite that as, on my own, I have the lamp that will dispel the darkness.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'd like to,
Yeah.
And
Holy Spirit gave it to me last week, and so now I'm good to go. You don't need help me anymore.
We try to judge on the level of form, and so if my life is going pretty well, I think I'm more spiritual than if it's not, and that's hilarious.
Exactly. I'm good to go now, Holy Spirit. You don't need to give me any more help.
Yeah, not quite.
No.
So anyway, all right. We've got one paragraph left, and it's a beauty.
Yes.
In the Holy Spirit alone lies the awareness of what God cannot know and what you do not understand. There it is again, right? It is his holy function to accept them both, and by removing every element of disagreement, to join them into one. And you could say by removing every element of guilt, right? Of mistaken belief. He will do this because it is his function. Leave then what seems to you to be impossible to him who knows it must be possible because it is the will of God. And he's speaking to us as a decision-making mind, and he's not speaking about our life changing in any specific way. He's speaking about us returning to a sense of love, being loved and loving and peaceful with everyone, right? And that should be more than enough. Right?
Yeah.
So leave then what seems to you to be impossible to him who knows it must be possible because it is the will of God. And let him whose teaching is only of God teach you the only meaning. of relationships, which is that, union with love for the longing of love for love that we were talking about. For God created the only relationship that has meaning, and that is his relationship with you. With you meaning not me, Susan, or you, Bruce, but with the one child of God, which is still united within that embrace of the creator, in which there are no personal selves, but there is only happiness. There is only love. There's nothing opposite to that. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, one last thought on that possible and impossible. I was thinking, well, to our ego minds, the idea of innocence really is an impossibility, because
Oh,
we've
absolutely. Yeah.
started with the assumption that guilt happened, and from that foundation, from that premise, there's no out. But the
No.
Holy Spirit says, from above the battleground, looking at that from eternity, says, nothing happened here. Move along.
Right.
Get out of my courtroom. Your case dismissed. You're all innocent.
Right. It's possible to be peaceful and feel
Yeah.
safe and held and loved and loving, no, even in really bad circumstances within your life and the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn that, we begin to trust that by having those little epiphanies, those little experiences
Mm-hmm.
where something does seem hopeless, and suddenly we learn it much more from when it doesn't change externally than when it does. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because that really builds your faith. It's not talking about form, it's talking
Right.
about something. It's talking to a part of us that we've forgotten, and we join with in the holy instant, that part of us in which there is no me, there is no need, there is no exclusion of others or condemnation. There's only that shared need for us to find our way home together, and it's that's all it's ever about. And it's all anybody wants is please tell me that I'm still welcome,
Mm-hmm.
in spite of my bad behavior. We all have bad behavior.
Yeah.
We do. We're all
Oh,
badly behaved,
sure. We're,
and
we're all we're
yeah.
all children, as Ken Wapnick points out,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and whether we're, even if we're not acting it out in form, it's a bloodbath in our minds
Yeah.
usually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up, because it kind of
okay,
reminds me that, as this wonderful section does, is that the only way we're going to find certainty and peace and calm and true serenity and tranquility is in the mind. And earlier this week, I thought, what an interesting exercise, if when I remember to do it, is to take every little sentence that crosses my path and add a little suffix to it, in my mind. And because so often we think, well, it's in the world. No, it's in my mind. It's in my mind. And
yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of gives us a little boost into that workbook lesson 5. It's, the never upset for the reason I think, if I can remember. Oh, that's right. It's going on in my mind, not out there. So that's going to be my
right,
exercise for a while, is maybe through the holiday season too. It's like, it's in my mind. It's in my mind.
right.
Yeah.
And yeah, and open to whatever that means, because
Mhm.
it's not our brain. So
No, definitely not. No.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great um, awareness. So
Well, thanks again, Susan, for sharing another conversation. And I particularly
you.
like the depth of the feeling of the peace and comfort and support that this section really does
Yeah,
remind us
it
of.
really does. It's a great
Yeah,
one to read if
yeah,
you're, having a bad day.
yeah, yeah.
Because it just, I mean, it really, we really couldn't read it enough. We're so
Yeah.
supported, and
Hmm.
our part is so small. And,
Yeah.
Jesus, the Holy Spirit, that symbol, that loving presence within our mind. It's not the biblical Jesus, but it is so, it can be counted on in all circumstances, and it's always there for us. And again, it will never fail us. It's just waiting for us to turn away from our own little shop of horrors and turn to it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Our inner Audrey too can go hungry at some point, and yeah,
yeah.
doesn't need to be fed when we realize
Right,
it's a dream, a nightmare's dream.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you.
Thank you, and I look forward to the next conversation.
Okay, great. Yeah, Merry Christmas,
Li-
anybody who's listening to this.
Likewise, likewise.
Yeah.